Hello everyone, Dusty Sage with MiceChat.com, and I'm here with somebody really special, a good friend of mine, Doug Lipp. And Doug may not look familiar to you, but after this video, I guarantee you, you're going to be searching him because Doug worked here at Disneyland a long time ago at a very important time when customer service was really incredibly important to the Disney company, and particularly here at Disneyland, where Walt was trying to make sure that people didn't think of it as sort of a carnival, swistery kind of organization with bad customer service and rundown operations. But back then, they started something called the Disney University to make sure that Disneyland would be more than a step above. It was really going to be the standard for a burgeoning industry. And Doug is at the heart of that. So we're gonna do a little walk and talk down Main Street USA and talk about some of the folks that Doug worked with and why the Disney Way, Disney University, was so important and why it should still be important today, and why we're hoping that a younger generation of Disney operators will rediscover some of the incredible things that you do. And you haven't let this go, Doug.
No, Dusty, I don't know about the passion that you have. I can't even begin to equal that, but given the men and women who were my mentors at Disney and what they learned from Walt Disney directly, I have to say that for 40 plus years, my purpose in life has been to not only learn the Disney approach, but to convey it to others. And I so applaud what you're doing.
Well, you're out there, you're doing big seminars and things all over the world talking about customer service and oftentimes the Disney Way.
Yes, in fact, earlier you said I was the heart of the Disney University. Far from it. My mentor, Van France, another huge source of inspiration in my life was Jim Cora. These guys started the Disney University, of course, under the good graces of Dick Nunis. But yes, I travel the world. I give presentations on the Disney Way. I help companies create their organizational culture. I wrote my book, Disney U, all about what Van France did and the values that Walt started and these men and women carried forth.
By the way, that book, Disney U, is incredible.
Well, it was because of people like Jim Cora, Ron Dominguez, Dick Nunis, people that I admired that sat down and chatted with me about working with Walt. Marty Sklar, he and I had tears together talking about Walt and what he created. And so, yes, the Disney U is not about me, it's about these men and women that Walt hired and how they carried forth Walt's dream.
It's incredible. Do you mind taking a little walk with me?
Let's do it.
A lot of your history is actually on the windows above where we are here on Main Street USA.
Indeed. Safety first, safety first. Here we go.
I'm going to get a picture of Minnie from Minnie. Could you take a picture of me?
Yes.
Minnie, can I get a picture of you?
She's just walking around for right now. She's not taking for pictures.
Okay.
So here we are, we're on Main Street USA, and not only is this the start of your Disneyland visit, it's sort of the start of Walt Disney's story himself. This is a Main Street USA like from Walt Disney's youth in Marceline or a similar type of small Midwestern town. And I think it's a great place for us also to begin the journey because up above, on the windows of Main Street, are lots and lots of names of all sorts of people that had a lot to do with the foundation of Disneyland and its success. And a lot of the people you worked with are on these windows.
Yeah, Dusty, it's quite, it's Main Street USA. It's also a walk down memory lane because a lot of the iconic Disney legends, many of whom I worked with and for, are feated on these windows, and rightfully so, because they are the ones that helped create this dream that Walt came up with. But it takes people, it requires people to bring that dream to fruition, which is exactly what Walt said. So when I look at these windows, I go into so many different places of joy and sometimes abject fear, because a lot of these folks were tough as nails, just like Walt had been, but had hearts of gold.
There's one of them right there, Dick Nunis, that I know had a lot to do with your story.
Yes, and he recently passed. Vibrant gentleman. My wife and I, Pam, we had dinner with him just a little over a year ago in Orlando, and he was still as irascible then as ever.
And what was it that Dick was really doing here at Disneyland back in the day?
Well, Dick was the president of the park. He was chairman of Disney Outdoor Recreation, but he was the man that Van France would argue is the one who really supported, of course, in addition to Walt Disney, the creation of Disney University and cast member training.
He was really, from what I understand, one of the biggest proponents of really the quality of a guest experience and really the standard bearer for the Disney way here in the park.
I would say Dick Nunis, Jim Cora, absolutely, along with Van France. Those three guys, arguably many others as well, but Dick and Jim were steadfast in their belief of maintaining Walt's values and making sure that all cast members lived and breathed those values.
It's sad these guys are going. I don't know that many are left. The second generation folks, like you're really holding up the standard now for Disney when a big name like Jim Cora leaves us. But there's another big name up here.
Yeah, there's
not
Van.
very far away. Right next door is Van France.
And the reason that window is where it is this used to be the tobacco shop, and Van was a, let's put it mildly, a chain smoker. When you'd see him in a classroom, you weren't sure if he was holding a piece of chalk or a cigarette, sometimes both. But Van was the founder of the Disney University and quite the irascible gentleman. In fact, Dick Nunis, we were talking about him a few moments ago, coined a great phrase. He said Van was a combination of three of Disney's most iconic characters. He was a little bit Jiminy Cricket in that he was the conscience of the organization. He was a little bit Mary Poppins in that he had a ready smile, but he was tough as nails. And he was a little bit Donald Duck because Donald in his earliest iterations was a short-tempered little cuss, and Van would get in your grill in a heartbeat if he saw you were cutting corners.
So it was really all about quality.
Indeed. Quality of product, quality of human interaction, and the human interaction is something that is lacking in so many organizations today. They focus on the technology, the apps, which I'm not against, but at the expense of human interaction, it doesn't have to be an either-or proposition.
Because you really need people to set the tone of any organization, but in a theme park where you're trying to create magic, yes, the rides are magical and the characters are definitely magical, but it's really the cast members, it's the people that set the tone.
Yes. And you think about so many people now are so focused on their phone, on their app, and they're not really enjoying, such as the windows that you and I are enjoying right now, because they're trying to keep up with their day via an electronic device 12 inches from their face, and they don't see the beautiful theming.
So if you had to boil it down, back in the early days, how long was employee training for a new employee, and what were they learning?
Well, employee training certainly was driven by what function you had, but you would have at least a day of traditions at Disney University, and then depending on your role, you had specific job-related training, whether it's food and beverage and handling food and beverage. Was it security? Was it ride operations? Was it how to evacuate an attraction in a good show fashion, even though it might be a little bit of an emergency? So it could be several days after traditions, and then it could be ongoing where you have OJT. Now a lot of organizations are eschewing getting rid of new hire orientation, at least in person. They're doing it online, no human connection for the new hire, so he or she doesn't see the importance of it, hence they don't give it to guests who come into the park or other companies or hospitals around the world.
What was an example of how Disney's training was different than what other companies were doing? You know, we know some of the famous things, you know, employees were taught to point with 2 fingers or more and not point accusatorily with 1 finger, and you never told a guest no, but what was behind all that? What was the real message of Disneyland's training?
Well, first of all, we hired right. It's a 3-pronged approach: hire right, train right, and treat right. So if you get the right cast members or employees on the front end, the right substrate upon which to build your kingdom, then you have a fighting chance as a training team. So already coming into the room, the orientation room, we had cast members who wanted to be there. And then we imbued them with this sense of pride. Do you realize what came before you and the hard work of the men and women before us, including Walt and everybody in between them and us now? So they had this sense of pride, and as we walked through the park and would do an onstage tour, we talked about how that has been maintained for generations. And so by the time we got to the hard stuff of human resources and rules and regulations, that was an afterthought. It was like, wow, I am so excited and so stoked to be here. Oh yeah, I'll learn about all the other stuff later. So that's where the divisions and the work environment, whether it's food and beverage, security, they would help get all the nuts and bolts taken care of. But we wanted to instill that sense of pride that separated cast members at Disney from employees at another theme park or store.
In fact, there's another name just above us here that is a big piece of the story. That's Jim Cora there, and he is very near and dear to you.
He took me under his wing, and very, very kind man, but tough as nails, as I alluded to earlier. And we lost him coming up this March 3 years ago, and he was a tremendous role model. You either loved him or hated him, and I had moments of both. But Jim was honest, and even though I never met Walt Disney, I think Jim was the closest to Walt in that he was brutally honest, but he had a heart of gold, and he formed my career. And I was in touch with him until just weeks before he passed, and he helped me with the Disney U book open doors that would not have been opened. And he kept me honest and on task with that book in his inimitable way. I mean, once a boss, always a boss, right? But I look at that window.
What a lovely tribute, though, that he was recognized by the company for his accomplishments. And he'll always be with you. He's in your book. And if people want to look you up and find out more about what you do and maybe to get you to speak for their company, how do they find you?
Well, the website is douglipp.com, DOUGLIPP.com, and happy to help, whether it's in presentations or consulting, or just read the book, because my wife and I donate 100% of the proceeds of Disney U to a nonprofit organization called NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Illness.
Love it. Doug, you are an incredible person, and thank you so much for taking the time for this journey down Main Street with Mice Chat. I hope that a lot of what you helped accomplish here at Disneyland can come back in some way in the near future. And you can find a lot of Doug's writings on micechat.com, and hopefully some new ones in the future.
Thank you for the opportunity, Dusty. I really appreciate it.